cute, huh?
I have plenty of memories from when my dad was in Korn.
I love you, Daddy.
Peekaboo. It changed my perspective on how I saw, love.
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I'm your host Matthew Pejkovic and this is episode 210. Releasing in Australian cinemas on May 15 is Loud Krazy Love, a documentary that focuses on the tumultuous life of Korn guitarist Brian Head Welch, whose journey from nu metal star to single father and evangelical Christian is captured in raw, intimate detail for the world to see. A movie about faith, music, the search for purpose and a father's love for his daughter, Loud Krazy Love goes beyond the usual rock documentary and delves into matters both intimate and universal. I had the pleasure of interviewing Brian about the movie a few days ago. Here is our conversation. So I guess my first question is, you are a very transparent person when it comes to your life journey. You've released a few books. Your music is very autobiographical. What was it about the appeal of a movie, a documentary, that you thought would be a good way to present your story?
I just thought it was a logical next step, because I had written books. I had shared so much of, my personal life and my inner life, that the man behind the face, or if you will. But I just thought it was a good next step. And also, since 2005, I had the idea in the back of my mind, and I had all kinds of good footage, and was still collecting good footage just because that's what I do. I like to have memories and everything, and so, I just, because of those factors and it coming together and a team coming to form around me to believe in it, it just happened. It materialized,
Speaking of that team, the film's directed by Trey Hill and Scott Mayo. How did you meet those guys? Did you know of them beforehand? Did they approach you? Did you approach them? How did that ball begin to roll?
That's a great question. I met them in 2008, and there's a website called IamSecond.com, and it films. Since 2008, it has filmed life stories of people that are in, either sports or entertainment or, something like that. But there are regular people in business or whatever also that they filmed. But majority of it is people in the public eye and their short stories of their, how they've changed their lives or something like that, and so they filmed those short stories back then, and I met them then, and we just stayed in contact over the years, and they've become friends, and so when they approached me, I was a fan of their work, and I knew that they could rise to the occasion and do something special, and that they did.
This documentary, it's a story about your journey, but it's also a story about your daughter, Gianna's story as well. Was that something that you knew there's going to be like that in the beginning, or did that just come about organically?
It came about organically, and so the first cut was 2 hours and 15 minutes, and the story was majority about Korn. Mm-hmm. My return to Korn after being gone almost a decade. And so once we showed it to people and got feedback from people, the consensus was that the most important part of the story was the father and daughter aspect of it. And so we condensed it down and edited it and took out because there was a lot of behind the scenes, like us in dressing rooms, and it was cool, but it was just kind of been done already, and so we trimmed the fat, so to speak, and got it down to 90 minutes and focused on the father and daughter story arc. And and it was, yeah, that was the key thing, and it really brought it together, because it's more than music, you know. The film was, you know, it's about family, it's about, you know, healing, and it's about, you know, perseverance to get your healing, you know.
When I was watching the movie, you talked about the birth of your daughter. I am the father of two boys, and you touched on something that really resonated with me, and that was when you see your child born, you are overcome with this overwhelming kind of experience. It's an overwhelming experience, a feeling of unconditional love, but at the same time, you're just scared shitless. You don't know what's going to happen around the corner. But you were quite young as well. You were 25 years old when you had your daughter. Who do you turn to for help during those times when you don't know what's around the corner and you need advice for something like that?
I was 28.
28.
But I was, dude, I turn to anyone and everyone, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to screw this up. What do I do here? What do I do? And I was so scared just that we would harm her because, you know, accidentally, because she was so fragile. And so, yeah, I got advice from my parents, or my wife's parents, my ex-wife's parents, or, you know, friends that, you know, some of my band members, two of them had babies by then. And so we would, you know, I couldn't text them, but I could call them, you know.
I'm a big fan of heavy metal of all facets, including your band. And with that, I've heard a lot about stories from other musicians as well about no matter how much money they made, no matter the fame they've accumulated, there's a sense of emptiness at times while on the road. Where does that come from? Is it a thing? Does fame feel something of a burden? Is it the schedule that you have? Is it the boredom and the easy access to things like drugs and alcohol? Where does that burden kind of come from?
I think it's the, you know, we're not meant to travel. You know, that's why most all families, like they find a place and they get a home and they build a life there. You know, and so we're not wired naturally to get in a vehicle and travel to a different place over and over and over again. And we can do it, but we're not wired for it. It's not our natural, you know, instinct or whatever like that, you know. And so I think it just has something to do with making you feel off balance emotionally, mentally, spiritually, whatever you want to call it. It's just that we're not meant to be doing that, you know, full on. And so it just, you know, there comes like a cloud over you. The first week traveling is usually fun.
Yeah.
Because it's new, you've been home for a while, and you're traveling, and you're hanging out with the guys. And then week 2, you start to get tired. This is for all of my friends. This is what happens. Week 3, you're like, I want to be at home, you know, and you're just dwelling on that, and you feel a little depression and everything. Week 4, you're like done. You're like counting the days, you know, and but still trying to have fun. You know, it's not like agony or nothing. I mean, you've got a good career. You're traveling. You know. But it's just what it does to the emotions. And then any time after that, you just kind of, you know, go with it, and you just, you know, well, 2 more weeks left or whatever. It's like this summer we're doing 6 weeks with my band, and so, you know, we'll just make the best out of it. But that's what you kind of feel inside. You know, like 3 weeks in, you feel like you're on the road for, feels like 2 months.
What's the longest period you've been on the road? Like, would it have been like 4 or 5 months, maybe more?
Non-stop. We've never done more than 2 or 3 months without coming home, you know. So usually people at least take a break. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
I'm also a Christian. I returned to the faith back in 2008 or so. And there's something that you mentioned in your documentary about when you first went to church, when you were in a place of worship, you felt a certain surrender, a certain peace. And it's something that I can relate to as well. When I first started going back to church as well, I had the same kind of feeling. Is that something you still feel when you're in a place of worship?
Like a surrender?
Yeah, kind of like, well, for myself, I feel like a certain surrender, a peace, a certain sense of peace when I'm in church.
Yes, me too. And then I do that when I focus, It's like church can be in my car, driving down the road in the afternoon, It's like just me connecting with God. And so, I feel that surrender, and that surrender equals, wow, I can let go. So surrendering is letting go of control of everything, And so it really feels good. Some people think surrender and they think, oh gosh, I don't want to give my life up,
Yeah.
But in reality, you're letting go of stress. You're letting go of trying to control everything. You're letting go of taking the position of God, trying to be God over your own life, and so, to me, it just equals that peace. That's why that peace comes. It's because someone that cares so deeply for you is leading you and in control of your life and helping you make decisions,
Yeah, definitely. As a heavy metal fan and as a Christian, I always find it interesting how the two worlds kind of can be in conflict at times, but there's a parallel between the two as well. And I'm kind of surprised how over the years certain members of the heavy metal community have come out as Christians. You have members from Megadeth and Iron Maiden and from other bands as well. What about yourself? Have you seen a kind of growing Christian community within the bands that you've toured with?
Definitely people are more spiritual nowadays. It's crazy. Just so many, and if they're not Christians already, they're just open to talking about it, and it's like, because it looks different now. Like the face of Christianity has changed. Before, it was just judgmental, and it was like, you have to be separate from the world, and you have to, you can't be in this music or it just was. In America, it was just like laughable, a few decades ago, because it was like The Simpsons, that show, The Simpsons. It's like, people thought of Christians like the Ned Flanders character, just like annoying people that thought they were just too good or holier than everybody else, and everyone's going to hell or whatever. And so nowadays, it's like, you can show you're a complete mess without God, and that He's the one that's perfect, not you, and that you don't judge others. That's why I think God has called me to this, just back to the band and to stay in that atmosphere, is because He's changing the way Jesus really is. That He's showing the authentic faith and the real acceptance of actually everybody. Everybody is welcome to come to Him. So it's pretty cool to be a part of that.
I found it really interesting that when you were going through your own faith journey, your bandmate and bass player Fieldy, he converted back to Christianity as well. Was that something that was happening at the same time, or did you have a certain influence on that on his conversion?
I had not any influence whatsoever to him. It was really wild how it happened, because Fieldy, his dad became a Christian when we were like 18, 19 years old. Mm-hmm. And his dad was his dad was a musician too, and he played like around in clubs, and it just partied a lot, like drank so much and did drugs, and so we were shocked when he changed to be a Christian, and we were like, oh no, he's going to be one of those weird guys, right? And then, and so, his dad at first like shoved it down his throat, and then after seeing that didn't work, he just kind of loved on him, just wanted a relationship with him. And then so what happened was I became a Christian. I left the band, and I went to follow God my own way, to be with my daughter. And then I just I was at home all the time, and while I was gone, Fieldy's dad passed away, and that's when he decided to just seek out the Bible and just see if there's any truth in there, because his dad like suddenly passed away at a young age. You know, he was in his 50s or something, and so that was it. And he opened the Bible, and he's never put it away since that day. And it was all on his own, not even, you know, with me at all. But he stayed in the band, and I left, and I was confused with that. You know, people were too. Like, fans were confused. Why can't Brian be in the band if Fieldy is, you know? And so, yeah.
I think that goes to show that people need to go with their own path sometimes to reach the place that God needs them to be.
Exactly. Everyone's got their own unique journey, and that was just a cool picture of that. I would tell people, once I understood that, you know, and grew a little, I was like, this is the key to this whole thing. It's a personal relationship, and what God tells one person may not tell exactly the next person. It's a personal relationship.
And I think it's a relationship that you share so eloquently and so intimately through your work, and also through this movie, Loud Krazy Love. It comes out in Australia next week. I can't wait for people to watch this film. And Brian Welch, I thank you very much for joining me today. Congratulations with your achievements, and congratulations with the movie.
Thank you so much. That means a lot that you say that, and I'm so looking forward that I'm coming to Australia on Saturday to do some promo and to hang out and go to some of the showings. So thank you, and I hope to meet you face to face there.
Oh, that'll be awesome. And look, once again, congratulations, and enjoy your travel to Sydney, and I hope you like your time in Sydney when you're here.
All right, man. All right, good talking to you.
You too. Goodbye.